Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Shannon, and this is Shannon's Book Nook. So today we're going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag, and I'm going to be answering 13 questions about how my year 2024 is going so far, as it goes with books. The first question is, what is the best book you've read so far this year? And you know what, to be quite honest, it really depends on what genre we're talking about. Because I read across different genres, it's really hard to compare a thriller to a fantasy or a fantasy romance or a thriller fantasy romance to a romance. So it really depends on what genre we're talking about. But one of the first books that I read at the beginning of the year was None of This Is True by Lisa Jules. And I absolutely loved this book. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend listening to the audiobook. This is set up with a podcast. So listening to the audiobook kind of brings a new element to it. Highly recommend this thriller if you haven't read it yet. Another book that pops up in my mind is Caught Up by Liz Tomford. This is book 3 in the Windy City series. I did read this out of order. My bad, didn't know. But it really is such a phenomenal read. It's a romance, it's a sports romance, it's a single dad sports romance, and it really did deliver. The second question says, what is the best sequel that you've read so far in 2024? And my first gut reaction is Glow of the Everflame by Pencole. This is book 2 in the Kindred Curse saga. If you have not read this fantasy romance series, oh my gosh, highly recommend that you start this. It is so freaking good. Absolutely loved it. I am currently on book 3 of that series, and book 4 will be coming out in July. So I am really looking forward to reading this entire series. The other book that came to mind is What Hunts Inside the Shadows by Harper L. Woods. This is book 2 in that series, and I have since read book 3 and DNF the series. So while book 2 is great, has great world building, there's some smut in there, there's some plot, it does a great job of moving everything forward. Book 3 kind of just destroys everything that has been put in place so far. So take that with a grain of salt when I say that book 2 is a great sequel. But yes, if you like dark fantasy with like torture and gore and lots of detail, then you might like that series. For me, it was a little too much. So yeah. Question number 3. What is a new release you haven't read yet but want to? I have a few new releases that I have not gotten around to reading because my backlist is just very long, and trying to get to new releases immediately is really hard. So, the first book that I really want to get to is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I have read People We Met on Vacation, Happy Place, and Book Lovers, all by Emily Henry, and I've given them all 4.5, 5 stars. So I really love her books. So I'm anticipating really liking Funny Story. So I cannot wait to read that one. Another one that I am extremely excited about is Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. I read Butcher and Blackbird back in January because I had an arc from NetGalley of that book and was blown away by how much I love that book. I also highly recommend Butcher and Blackbird on audio because the narrators do such a phenomenal job of bringing that book to life. So I am definitely going to listen to the audiobook of Leather and Lark as well, which I went to my library. I went to Libby. I didn't go to my physical library. I went to my, digital library. And I was like, "Oh, let me put that on, on hold because I know since it's a new release, there's going to be a wait." I went and it said borrow for the audiobook. And I was like, "Okay, borrow." So I have that in my library to read very soon. Another book that I really want to get to soon is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Abby Jimenez is one of my favorite authors. I have loved everything she's written up until this point because I've read her entire backlist and cannot wait to read Just for the Summer, which will be a perfect summer read. It's one of the books that I do plan on taking with me on vacation. So I'm super excited about that. The last book that I really want to read is Murder Road by Simone St. James. I love Simone St. James writing. She's a very good mystery thriller writer. She knows how to pull in some paranormal stuff into her books. So I'm really excited to read her newest release. Question number 4. What is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? Look, I'm really bad about keeping track of what books are coming out soon, unless it's by an author that I've already read and am obsessed with. So I only have one book because I'm not really sure what's coming out in the second half of 2024. But the book that I'm extremely excited for is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune, which comes out in September. Look, House on the Cerulean Sea was my favorite book when I read it in 2020 or 2021, whichever year it was. Obsessed with that book. Loved it. So whimsical, so sweet. And then I find out he's coming out with like a prequel of that book. Like we're going to be getting off Arthur's story. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. So excited. All right. Question number 5 is, what is your biggest disappointment or biggest disappointing read in 2024? Okay, I have 2, and I don't want to get on a rant with these 2 books. So I'm going to try and keep it short. The first one is The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon. I was so disappointed that I didn't love this book. When I read the synopsis, I was like, dude, this is a book for me. I'm going to love it so much. And then it just fell so flat. I really think it has to do with the writing style for me, which is new. I don't normally get hung up on the writing style. There are a lot of things that I can look past, okay? But I did not connect to the 2 main characters, which are Heart and Mercy. And this is a romance. I didn't like Heart, the male main character. He just was not my cup of tea. Mercy, I liked her more, but I didn't believe in the romance. I thought it was very surface level and authentic, which is weird because they are writing letters to each other like You've Got Mail style. I didn't believe it. I really didn't. And I had a hard time getting through this book. I started it in April. I gave it a soft DNF because I was like, no, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's the time of the year. I'm a teacher. We're in testing season. I'm stressed. I'll just come back to it. I came back to it in May. Again, probably still not a good time of the year for a teacher at the end of the year. But I just wanted to get done with it. I gave it 2 stars and I was very disappointed. The other book is probably my most anticipated read of 2024 and ended up being the biggest disappointment. I'm calling it now. It's going to be the book that I am the most disappointed with by the end of the year. It is what it is. And that is House of Flame and Shadow. Don't kill me. Okay. If you've read this book, you know, you know. Like, this just does not seem like the SJM that I know. I was so disappointed. It's a thick one, just like the rest of her Crescent City books. But look, I tabbed 4 things, literally 4 things. I couldn't even be bothered to tab things anymore. It took me almost a month to read this brick. And one thing you need to know about me, and I'm not sure if it's because of, no, I'm pretty sure it's because of ADHD. If it takes me too long to read a book, I'm bored and I just want to be done with it. And that's what happened with this book. I gave it a 3-star, which for me, giving an SJM book a 3 star is like giving another book 1. It's not good. It's not. It just was not what I was expecting, to be quite honest. And I was very disappointed. Question number 6. What was your biggest surprise so far this year? Okay, so my biggest surprise, the biggest surprise of the book that I read, the first one, is Caught Up by Liz Tomford. I kind of picked this one up on a whim, and what a whim it was. Like, I freaking loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. I talked about it earlier in the video. It is a sports romance. We have a single dad, Kai, and then we have Miller Montgomery, who is a success in her own right. She is a badass, and she is a chef. She comes home for the summer because she needs a break from her high stress job. And her dad is like, well, I'm glad you're here. And guess what? You're not going to just sit on your butt all summer and do nothing. You're going to help. And so he is like, this player is a new single dad, never done it before. He needs help. You're going to be the nanny. So she's like, okay. And I fell in love with all of these characters, and I cannot wait for book 4 to come out this summer. Cannot wait. The other book I want to talk about is Spark of the Everflame. This is the first book in the Kindred series and kind of blew my mind. Gave it 4 stars. I was really not anticipating liking this book as much as I did. I had heard some people say, you know, it's an okay start to a series. I mean, you've got your world building is starting. You're just kind of being introduced to everybody. It's okay. I really loved this book. I was not anticipating loving this one as much as I did. Does DM make some questionable choices? Abso-freaking-lutely. There were times where I was like, girl, what are you doing? But I really think this was a solid start to a great series. And I cannot talk about this series enough in this mid-year freakout because I am obsessed with it. I need you to read it. Please read it. Question number 7 is, who are your new favorite authors? Okay, I have 3, two of which I have already talked about. The first one is Liz Tomford. I do plan on reading the rest of the Windy City series, and any books that she puts out, I am happy to read. I will definitely be checking out the rest of her books. The other one is Penn Cole, which is the author for the Kindred Curse saga. I am absolutely loving what she's doing with this series, and I will definitely be reading any books she continues to put out, and I need to check to see if she has any backlist books for me to check out. The other author I have not talked about yet. I read an arc by her that I was given by I got it on NetGalley, called A Divided Heart. And this was like a suspenseful romance that had me sitting on the edge of my seat because I could not. I was like, is this happening? What is going on? But this is the author that I am like, I have already added the rest of her books to my backlist, like on my TBR, is Alessandra Torre. Torre? Love her books. Cannot wait to read the rest of them. Question number 8 says, who is your newest fictional crush? I I have two. I could have picked more. I didn't. I picked two. The first one is Kai from Caught Up. He is the single dad, he is a baseball player. He's got a pretty good head on his shoulders. This baby was kind of just dropped in his lap by a one night stand, and he owned it. He took control of the situation, even though he had no idea what to do. I mean, good head on this man's shoulders. And the way he treats his teammates and Miller, and just, yes, fictional crush for sure. The other one is Luther Quabois. Prince Luther from the Kendrick Curse saga. In book one, he is like the mysterious, broody prince. In book two, we start learning more about him. And then in book three, he's pissing me off, but I still love him. I don't know what's going on with him in book three. I want to find out. I'm ready to find out what's going on with him. But yes, I love him. He is my newest fictional crush, and I will fight somebody over him. Question number 9. Who is your newest favorite character? I feel like I've been talking about this book a lot, but it's going to end up being in my top 10. So Miller Montgomery, she is from Caught Up. I've talked about her before. She is a baddie on her own. She doesn't need Kai, who is a successful baseball player who has lots of money. She doesn't need him. She is successful on her own. I want her to be my bestie. She is a chef. She's a Michelin chef. So she's got all of these awards behind her. She's got all of these other people wanting her to come to their kitchen, help me fix my menu, help me do this, help me get my kitchen in order, whatever. She is there to help other chefs. She is so phenomenal, and her growth in the story, because she's trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life, because she's realizing there's some internal stuff going on, and watching her grow, such a phenomenal storyline. The other character, or characters I should say, that I fell in love with are from the Kindred's Curse saga, and they are in Diem's inner circle. So Alix and Taryn. Taryn specifically, because this man has me cackling at some of the things that he says to Diem and to Luther, just to kind of stir the pot. He cracks me up. And now we're getting this new character in book 3 that has a Taryn energy that throws it at Taryn, and it is hilarious. Hilarious. I love Taryn. So those are my two new favorite characters. Question number 10. What is a book that made you cry? I have two from very recently that have made me cry. The first one is You and I Rewritten by Chip Pons. This is a queer romance. We have Graham and we have William, and they work at Graham's family's publishing house in New York. They have such a sweet, cute relationship, but William has some struggles with his biological father, who is an alcoholic. So I will say, if you're going into this book, while the relationship between Graham and William is sweet, there are some things that William is dealing with from his past that have caused him some trauma. And towards the end of the book, like the last 80-ish%, we see William having to deal with some of those things. And it made me cry. I definitely cried. And it wasn't like a single tear. It was like bawling in the middle of the night from all of the stuff that he was having to go through. The other book that made me cry was Glow of the Everflame, book 2 in the Kindred Curse saga. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but there is something that happens in the book that I almost called it quits because I didn't want to read anymore. Not really, but I was so upset and distraught. It was the middle of the afternoon I'm at my Meemaw's house when I'm reading this book, and I'm crying. So yeah, those are the two books that made me cry. Question number 11. What's a book that made you happy? Okay, I have a couple. The first one is the Heartstopper series by Alice Osman. I did read volume 5 recently, and this whole series, which is a young adult graphic novel series, is just so sweet. It does really make me so happy to see Nick and Charlie trying to figure things out. They're in high school, they're queer, they've got their group of friends. They're just trying to figure out how to accept themselves in a society that doesn't always accept them. So getting to see the growth and the relationship, and Charlie trying to figure things out with his eating disorder is just, it's a sweet, and Alice does such a good job with such a delicate topic. She does such a good job with Charlie's story. The other book that really makes me happy is called Sheets. And this was actually recommended to me by Hannah. And this series is a middle grade graphic novel series. And we have Marjorie, who is running her family's laundromat business after her mother has passed away. Her dad is in a depressive state and can't do it. So she steps up and she is running it. Now, she is in 8th grade, so she's got other responsibilities, but when she can, she opens up the laundromat and she runs it. But the laundromat is being haunted by a ghost. And his name is Wendell, and he doesn't have any memory of what happened. So Marjorie and Wendell develop this friendship, and it is so sweet. And there are 3 books in this series, and we kind of see the development. Book 2 and 3 in particular were just so good. This is another book that actually made me cry. I did cry in book 2, or maybe it was book 3, or both. To be quite honest, it could have been both. But this series was really, really sweet. Another book that made me super happy was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This book, look, it not only was it my only 5-star book for May, Ali Hazelwood is back at the top of my list because I read Love Hypothesis, gave it 5 stars. And then I read her the next book, which I got, the Love on the Brain. I did not like that one as much. And then I read that group of novellas. There were 3 of them. Didn't like those. So I didn't want to read Love Theoretically. I didn't read Check and Mate because I didn't care at this point. But now, and I think it's because this is a paranormal romance. If you are used to like rom-coms, which are cute and not as spicy, then you probably love those, and not like this one. I love this one because I grew up on shifter romances. And if you know, you know. Because she is a vampire and he is a werewolf. And there are certain anatomies that a werewolf has. Moving on. Question number 12. What's the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year? I am not very picky about my book covers, to be quite honest. I love most book covers. There are a couple where I'm like, interesting choice, but okay. I love the book covers for the Kindred Curse saga. Like all of the covers are similar, but the stuff on the outside and inside of the silhouette change based on what is kind of happening in the book. I think these covers are gorgeous. To bring in something that I haven't already talked about, let me talk about some other books that I bought recently. The Book Club Hotel by Sarah Morgan. This book cover is the aesthetic of like winter and snow and just being in the middle of nowhere. I love that book cover. It is gorgeous. Now, I am from the South, so I don't get to see snow very often. So I love that. People who are from the North who have to deal with snow a lot may not love it as much. Another book that I really love the cover of is Promise Me by Carly Jean. This cover, I'm loving like the ombre effect and just apparently I really love trees. Maybe I need to read books with more trees on them. But I think both of those covers are gorgeous. It started raining. So if you can hear the rain, sorry. Number 13, question 13. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? I have so many that I want to read. I'm going to have to be picky. So I really want to read or wrap up kind of a lot of the series that I am currently in the middle of. I'm in the middle of quite a few though, so I don't know how I'm going to do that. I need to finish the Kindred Curse saga, which I'm about 40-ish% of the way through book 3, and then book 4 will come out in July. Another series that I am almost done with is Off Campus. I have read 3 of the 4, technically 5 books, but I'm not reading that last one. The Legacy is just a bunch of novellas. I'm not interested in reading all of the novellas. So I'm going to read the fourth one, which is The Goal. The Goal. I have Dreamland Billionaires, which I have read what's the name of the first book? I can't remember the name of the first book, but I read that one. I need to read Terms and Conditions and The Final Offer. I need to read Chestnut Springs by Elsie Silver. Now, I was not impressed by that first book. I gave it 2 stars. I was like, what is going on here? I'm going to try book 2. If I don't like book 2 and I'm still sitting at like a 2-star, then I'm guessing this author is just not for me. I won't read it. I'm not going to torture myself with that entire series. So I will DNF that series if I don't like book 2. The next one is The Edens by Devney Perry. I have read the first 2, Indigo Ridge and Juniper Hill. I am on Garnet Flats, and I have not heard good things about this book. So we'll see what happens with that one. And then I'm also in the middle of The Winston Brothers by Penny Reed. Absolutely adore this series, bunch of lumberjack brothers, and cannot wait to continue. I believe I'm on book 3 or book 4. And then I have Kings of Sin by Anna Wong, and I have read the first book, King of Wrath. I need to read King of Pride so I can read the rest of it because I am loving that series. So there you have it. That is my mid-year little wrap up. Some of the questions were a doozy because I couldn't pick just one. There's no way I can pick just one. But I really hope you liked this video. If you liked it, please like. And if you want to subscribe, please subscribe. If you feel like leaving me a comment, leave me a book emoji for the mid-year freakout, or leave me what your favorite read of the year so far has been. Thanks, guys. Bye.